Drama, drama, drama. The last hour here at PRL. Well, it was a very exciting race. 50% of the grid retired. One of the drivers on the podium did not want to finish in the position that they wanted. That was Pal. Of course, he was always going to want to charge for the win. Logo, not as disappointed though, because of course he's mates with Harrison as well, and they were both in a call working together. Now, the drama, of course, is due to the race dictating crash between Jayden and Note. Note's controller basically died, and it meant that he had to quickly get it back on. So, from what I can't remember exactly what I was told from the student account, but apparently he accidentally did something and it was, let's just say, it died momentarily and then he tried to get it back. So, that was just the discussions that him and Pal were having in the call. There was an appeal that was sent, which we are going to look at right now as well. So, there's going to be an appeal that we'll take a look at, and we'll of course analyze it all. So we haven't really done any analysis so far, but it's great to finally be able to do some now. If you're wondering what on earth is this, of course this is Jayden recording it off his phone to be sent to me. So first of all, let's enjoy the clip in all its glory. We're gonna press play. Here we go. Then we've got Note in the lead. Now I'm not gonna pause it. I'm not gonna do anything. Natural speed. You can see it all taking place right now. So look at this, making our way down towards turn one. At around this moment, you start to notice, you can see Jayden pulls out, Harrison pulls out. They both pull out. In the background, Logo just able to avoid. So that is the clip in all its glory. Bit of a Discord notification that we're gonna have to deal with, as of course there was a lot of discussion going on about who's at fault, who's not. So yes, okay, right. This is now when we're going to start analyzing it a little bit. So as you can see, first of all, Harrison, Jayden, they are both battling. Harrison's threatening to make a move. Now, at this point, we're going to pause it right here. At this point, I think everyone would surely expect, everyone here would at this point surely expect Note to keep the lead. If we just look at the distance here, I think everyone would expect that Note would be able to maintain it. We, of course, know that there's no slipstream in this. You have to basically be the distance that that Harrison is to Jayden to even have a little bit of a chance of making a move. So we know that it's not very likely that we're going to see these two challenging Note at this point. However, when we do get to turn one, they do end up challenging him. So first of all, here we go then. Pulling alongside, going for the move to this side is Harrison. You can see that he's already thinking about it. Now, at this point, they'd been doing it lap after lap. They were all battling. It was some brilliant action to watch, but as predicted, it was going to end in tears at some point. But I don't think many people expected it to end in tears this way. It would probably be someone misjudges it, which in the end, possibly someone did misjudge it. Now, at this moment, this is the moment. Now, we, of course, cut away from it. So I'm going to rewind a little bit. At this moment, this is when you can see the closing speed closing a lot. This is when the gap, Jayden and Harrison will visibly see that the gap has closed in massively. At the start of the straight, yeah, you might be gaining a bit, but this is when I think it really sinks in for both of them. The Note is incredibly slow. So if we rewind even further back in this, down this straight, you can see he's running well. We're not seeing him, so I quickly played it. He's not lost much time. Now they're gaining a lot. This is when they start gaining quite a bit. This is when the gap really closes in between Note, Jayden, and Harrison. You still think it's nothing. Then at this moment, they're like, oh look, right. Okay, so Jayden and Harrison both have closed in. They, of course, have to try avoid Harrison. That is exactly what they do. You can see Harrison has a lot more room here. So as you can see, we're of course watching it from behind the barriers. We can now look. Okay, right. Harrison does have Harrison, of course, with a bit more space. Note, of course, I don't think he had control of his controller, so he can't dictate which place he really wants to go in. And it meant that Jayden had this room, but there was a bit of discussion about, well, if you go on this line, it's a one-way ticket to find the barrier somewhere more further down. So that was the discussion with that. But then we did get some more evidence sent to us. Basically himself sending it against him in the end. So we're gonna play that in a second. But if we just take a look at this, now we're going to analyze this a little bit slower. So I'm going to reduce the speed of this. We're going to analyze it, let's say, much more slowly. We're going to slow it down a bit. Now you can see they've got quite a lot of speed here. Quite a bit of speed. And Jayden is going for the move here. Harrison also pulling out. Now the issue is, had Jayden just been a couple more centimeters, to just rewind it a little bit back, had Jayden just been a couple of more centimeters to this side, this whole crash would have been avoided. And with the overspeed, remember Jayden and Harrison both had a massive overspeed. With the massive overspeed, surely Jayden would have been able to, if he was a few more centimeters to this side, surely he would have been able to leave that corner and just inch right ahead. So this is the part. So he really wanted to be basically a little bit more this side. And then with the speed, if you just see, they're of course going to make contact, but he surely would have gone around the outside by the time they made their way a couple more meters further. So in the end, it ended in contact between the two of them, which is very, very unfortunate because these guys were putting on such a show. Such a show. Now, of course, it is definitely very unfortunate as we keep taking a look at this accident. Of course, it can be scary for a driver. Now, while he probably could have made the corner if he was a couple of meters, I do understand why Jayden tried to keep it as tight as possible to just basically try and make the corner and stay away from the barrier, because we know there's been a lot of talk in the preview to this about drivers finding the wall, losing two tires, all sorts. So he really tried to commit, and I think what he would have expected. A few things, of course, which I can defend him on a little bit. With the speed, if I put it back on normal speed, with this speed, you would kind of expect that you won't need to run too much wide, and you probably would be ahead by now. So that's the one little thing that we can defend him with. You probably wouldn't expect, and I think same with Harrison, you probably wouldn't expect Note to just regain speed a little bit quickly. And to be fair, looking at it, we don't know whether he regained speed. From what I heard from the student account when he was talking with Pal and Note in the call, Note, I think, did something to the back of his controller to regain speed. So we don't know at the exact moment where he regained speed. But he would have been, Jayden would have been able, but Jayden probably would have expected Note would have been gone by then. And wouldn't be basically in this gap, because he's, of course, at the same time, remember, he's also focused on Harrison. He's also very much focused on Harrison and trying his absolute best to make sure that he rejoins and is ahead of Harrison. So there's quite a few things for the drivers to contend with. And it was always going to end in tears. And Jayden hasn't been penalised, of course, even though we believe that Jayden could have done a bit more. You know, it is also, at the same time, Note's controller did die. It's not fully on Jayden. So, of course, it's not. So, of course, that's why Jayden's not got a penalty. But that's why Note also hasn't got a penalty. Because Jayden, of course, retired. I think that's a big enough punishment anyway, retiring from the Indy 500. But yeah, this is the moment of contact. If we just take it, if we really, really slow it down as well. At this moment here, we're about to get the contact. So, this is where they are going to make. So this is their first initial bit of contact down there. And then you can, of course, see what it leads to. And that's how that ended between those two drivers as well. Of course, Harrison, I think the issue as well was the reason why Harrison was able to get away with it, of course. With Note's controller dying, if a controller does die and just stops operating, it's of course not going to turn this way. It's not going to go this way, is it? So there's no way it's going to go that way. It was always going to go to Jayden's side. It was always going to, had he not, we don't know, of course, whether he did regain control or not. Even if he didn't, then it was always going to go into this path over here. It was always from this line over here. Let's put it out Logo's car. It was always going to just go, and then at some point end up in the barrier a bit more further down. Of course, the clip won't fully show it, but it was always going to end up further there. Jayden predicted that he would have been able to go all the way around the outside and then have a full car length ahead. Like, let's say at this moment, if Note's car was, let's say, pointing in the right direction, so it's still pointing normally, but Jayden's passed him, Harrison's passed him, and all is good. That's what Jayden probably expected. But it does all happen too quickly. It does all happen too much quickly. And then, of course, for Harrison, you can see he's got quite a bit of room here, down the inside. And if Note didn't have control of his car, he doesn't decide where he places it. Of course, it probably put Jayden in the worst situation. Like, it put Jayden in, like, of course, with how it works is, whether even if he regained control, it's hard for him to just fully come in and then rotate the car back. So it was always going to put Jayden in the hard situation being on the outside line, but it's just something that nothing could have been done about. And then lucky as well also not to collect Harrison there. Had Harrison been a bit more behind, it could have also, when he spun, could have also gone a bit and collected Harrison as well. So a little bit lucky with that one, but I think it's just wrong place, wrong time. There is another clip that we do need to look at as well. Of, well, this accident. But there's just nothing really that could be done in that situation. And I think that's why it's also fair not to penalize. Why it's not fair. Why it's also fair not to penalize Jayden. I don't think Jayden deserves a penalty because the situation he was put in was pretty hard. While I'm not a racing driver, I don't know how these cars work. I've driven some 2020 cars. I've driven all sorts. I know that sometimes when you're at high speed, it can be a bit hard to rotate them very quickly. Some drivers might have poor reaction time, stuff like that. But you know, it is just a bit of wrong timing there. But he did have more room to the outside. But at the same time, I don't think many drivers would have just fully been like, okay, right, I'm just going to use this line. First of all, I think, as I've already mentioned, every driver in Jayden's position probably would have expected, with how slow Note was, that they would have fully got ahead. So you wouldn't be considering it at the time. So that's the type of thing you probably wouldn't be considering. Something like that, where Note still has his Note still has his car in the middle. And as a racing driver, with how, of course, the talk has been about losing 2 tires and all that, no one would probably want to risk it straight up to the barrier. Now, as we're going to find out in a second, probably if he went closer to the wall, it would have been fine anyway. But at the same time, how do you know? How do you know in that moment? It probably didn't even come to his mind, as I mentioned, at that moment as well, till basically after the race, when he just recorded a little video for us trying to appeal, but in the end, it hasn't really gone in his way at all. But it's just unfortunate. It's just super unfortunate and disappointment for Jayden, who, of course, showed brilliant pace yesterday. Probably had a big chance of winning once again today, but unfortunately, it ended like that between those two drivers as well. And then, of course, in the background, Logo having to take avoiding action. So that's how that crash took place. Jayden lost the tie. Now, in the end, it wasn't the main issue that cost him, basically. In the end, the main issue that cost him was him having basically less control of his car after that crash. That's what cost him. And he was a little bit slow at places as well. So Pal and him had a bit of contact, but nothing. But once again, in that situation, you can't really blame both of them. Jayden's main frustration, of course, he initially got a little bit mad at Pal as well, but his main frustration was at Note, which I think pretty much is, yeah, I think it's pretty much, there's just nothing you could do in that situation. So neither driver deserves a penalty. Jayden could have given a bit more room at the same time, but at the same time, for a race like this, or for any race, if you're going to have a race, you probably want your controller fully charged up. Now, I don't know what the conversations were. I do remember the student account saying that Note accidentally did something to his controller, which momentarily lowered the well, I don't even have a clue. I have zero clue. I haven't heard it myself. But yeah, something that he accidentally he maybe pressed something accidentally, so he tried to get the controller back or something like that. So yeah, there's just really not much you can do. But of course, if he didn't do anything accidentally, and the controller died, only real advice to him would be make sure your controller is charged for races. Not only could it affect other drivers, but of course it will affect yourself. And then for Jayden, well, I think it's gonna happen again. It's just that one thing. It's something like whoever side you're on, not many people would around this circuit just go straight and close as possible to the wall. You want to try stay on this middle part of the circuit. So yeah, could have given more room, would have given more room, but I think that's something that drivers just need to practice. And Jayden as well, at the same time, he's got much better experience than a lot of these other drivers around this circuit. He's driven around this circuit, raced against dirty drivers in normal Roblox servers around this place as well. So yeah, I think he'll learn from this, and he'll make sure that next year, well, of course, I say next year, he's not racing next year, but for the remainder of this F1 season, that he does maybe leave a bit more room, and I think everyone will be leaving a little bit more room. And at the same time, and then also Note probably will charge his controller, make sure that's all sorted as well. Now, there is one more clip we need to look at, so I'm going to just quickly get that for us. I do need to download it first. Then we can get it for you guys. So, open video. There we go. Now, just need to adjust it slightly, as this is slightly. There we go. We'll just adjust it a bit. There we go. Okay, lovely. Okay, there we go. Okay, so perfect. Now this is the other clip that we have. This is basically just a clip of him, I believe, just driving flat out. So once again, we'll enjoy it in all its glory, and we'll be looking for the one. We'll be looking for the one where we get super tight to the walls. So first of all, yeah, we'll just enjoy it in all its glory. See how it is? There we go. Okay, so first part we can just skip. We are okay. Right, we're getting ready for here now. Right, I'm gonna slow this down for us a little bit. Just gonna quickly speed it up a little bit, and then at this point, right, let's slow it down. So first of all, this is a clip that he recorded on purpose. So what he's going to try to do here is get as close as possible. Now, there was, of course, plenty of talk. Well, yes, you can get closer to this wall over here. 1 second, there we go. Then, of course, you can get closer to this wall over here. But he did get closer. And the thing that did him, of course, in his evidence, let's just say, he probably didn't get some good evidence. What he probably needed, for his evidence to actually even be true, he needed to actually go into that barrier. So, yeah. If he didn't go into the wall, then clearly he could have done more. So he basically just proved, with this clip, he basically proved that there was more he could have done. Because, yeah, there was some conversation. Okay, well, if he had gone that close to the wall, it would have been straight into the wall for him. There with these cars. But he did go super tight to the wall. There we go. You can see how tight he is to the wall. Just look at that. That close to the wall. And then perfectly makes the corner. Once again, it's going to be a little bit wide, but he's made it. Of course, he's going to get close at this point, and then all is normal again. But yeah, it's now looking at it, he knows he could have done more. I think he knows that. But at the same time, it doesn't ignore the point of at that moment, he wouldn't have really expected that. So I think that's why I 100% agree. Brilliant stewarding from Pal. 100% agree that there shouldn't be any penalties given in this situation. because yeah, it's what a lot of drivers would have probably done. And then this one just basically, as I mentioned, perfectly shows you. This one basically just perfectly shows you that he just gets a little bit. Well, let's rewind it a little bit. So you can see that he gets a little. Let's try to find where he's. So around here, you can see that he leaves absolutely nothing on the table. Pushes it this time around all the way to the end, literally leaving absolutely no room at all. Well, a couple of centimeters basically he left, and the thing is, for him, he was able to make the corner. So he was able to make the corner, and all was okay. So well, I guess that is going to pretty much wrap it up then. I think that is pretty much going to wrap it up. So yeah, my final conclusions to that is that, well, both drivers is just an unfortunate thing. It's just an unfortunate thing. Jayden, of course, was in the heat of the moment as well, so he did lash out. There's also an investigation for him throwing debris and all sorts on Note's car. It is definitely something that we do not condone. Not condoned in real life motorsport. Not here either. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, my personal belief is, while some people may think, well, Jayden, that was completely outrageous, stuff like that, I'm personally in the middle. At that moment, as a driver, you probably wouldn't be expecting it. So yeah, a little bit of his fault, and then also for Note, it's a learning lesson as well about if he did it, if he pressed something accidentally which caused it, then of course that's something he'll learn from. If he didn't charge his, or if it was he didn't charge his controller enough before a race, he'll learn from that as well. So I think lots of learning for these drivers, but this was bound to happen. Let me just say one thing: this was bound to happen. Lots of reaction, but I think they did pretty well compared to what was predicted and what was rumored to be, where 0 people were finishing, stuff like that. So yeah, I think they did pretty well. It's disappointing, especially as this is probably for at least a while Jayden's last Indy 500 as he moves to the commentator role. But it's disappointing. But it was always going to happen at some point. It happened in this situation. So unfortunate for Jayden. Also, of course, Note retired later on due to a crash himself. But it was a day of disappointments for a lot. Celebration though for McLaren. Harrison was the winner of the Indy 500. Thank you for watching this analysis. We are hopefully going to do a little bit more analysis of all sorts here on this PRL channel as well. I'll try to get Jayden involved in some of them next season when he's doing F1, as I take a little bit of a step back. Thank you for joining us though for this analysis. Do let us know if you would like anything else from this season so far analysed, or of course if there's a moment later on in the season that you also want a little extra detailed look at, then please let us know. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time. But from everyone here at PRL, goodbye.